Boy, every time I get a platinum album, it's never taken lightly on my behalf. I'm always honored, and it's great thanks. You know, I'm very happy that the public enjoy what I do, and I can.
It was really a marathon because in 3 months' time we did a Thriller and the E.T. storybook album in 3 months. It was more than 18, wasn't it, Megan?
Yeah.
Felt like a week here.
Thriller isn't just a music video, it's a cultural icon and a defining moment in pop music history that redefined what a music video could be. For over 3 decades, it has captivated audiences, inspired countless artists, and earned its place as a cultural touchstone. But what if I told you that this legendary video, the one that made history with its groundbreaking visuals and unforgettable dance moves, almost didn't happen? Yes, the very project that catapulted Michael Jackson to new heights and changed the course of pop culture was nearly scrapped, facing hurdles so significant that at one point Michael himself considered destroying it. Few people realize just how close Thriller came to vanishing forever. Behind the scenes, Michael was grappling with a storm of issues. On one hand, there were immense financial pressures. The music video's budget was unheard of at the time, nearly $1 million, an amount so high that even the record label worried it might lead to financial disaster if the project didn't succeed. On the other, there were personal conflicts that weighed heavily on Michael's mind, conflicts rooted in his beliefs, his faith, and a fear of backlash from his religious community. This wasn't just about making a video. For Michael, it was about balancing his career, his art, and his own identity. From its inception, Thriller was shrouded in controversy. With zombies, werewolves, and horror-inspired visuals, the video was bold. Unlike anything the music industry had seen before, the vision was risky, daring to blend horror and music in a way that was groundbreaking but also unsettling for some. For Michael, who had grown up in a religious household and was a devoted Jehovah's Witness, the supernatural themes of Thriller raised serious concerns. The faith strictly opposed anything related to the occult, and those close to him worried that embracing these themes would lead to public condemnation, or worse, personal rejection from his religious community. Imagine standing at the brink of a project this monumental, only to be torn between your creative vision and the risk of alienating those closest to you. Michael faced this very dilemma. As the video's release date approached, he was bombarded with voices urging him to reconsider, to pull back, to think of the consequences. The pressure grew so intense that at one point, Michael reportedly gave the order to destroy the Thriller footage, fearing it would jeopardize his faith and relationships. It's almost impossible to imagine now, but there was a moment when Thriller, the video that would forever cement Michael Jackson's legacy, was inches away from being erased. What changed? What ultimately convinced Michael to push forward and take the risk? That decision, as you'll see, didn't come easily. At the heart of Michael's hesitation to release Thriller was a powerful conflict between his artistic vision and his deep-seated religious beliefs. Raised as a Jehovah's Witness, Michael adhered to a faith that strictly prohibited anything associated with the supernatural, especially anything hinting at zombies, werewolves, or occult themes. For Michael, faith was more than a personal choice. It was a family legacy, deeply ingrained in his identity. The idea of Thriller's horror-inspired themes clashed with everything he had been taught, and as the video took shape, his religious community began expressing serious concern. Family members and mentors from his faith warned him about the possible consequences. They felt the video glorified the supernatural, an act that went against the teachings of the church. According to those close to Michael, he was deeply torn, fearful of disappointing his family and the religious community that had shaped him. Some of his religious advisors urged him to cancel the project, calling it satanic and warning that releasing it could risk his standing within the faith. This wasn't just about facing criticism, it was about potentially being shunned by a community that had been a central part of his life. The pressure weighed on him and Michael's internal conflict grew. Here he was, creating a video that would push boundaries and cement his status as a visionary artist, yet he was haunted by the fear of betraying his own beliefs and alienating those closest to him. His fans saw him as the king of pop, but in private, Michael was a man grappling with a serious moral dilemma. This conflict wasn't simply about artistic freedom. It was a battle between who he was as an artist and who he felt he needed to be for his faith and family. Yet this struggle only intensified as production on Thriller continued. Michael knew the potential impact this video could have, not just on his career, but on the entire music industry. But with his family and religious advisors urging him to reconsider, the pressure became overwhelming. He found himself caught in a difficult choice. choice: follow through with his groundbreaking artistic vision or abandon it to stay true to his faith. And this internal struggle was just the beginning of the challenges Thriller faced on its journey to becoming an iconic masterpiece. Beyond the religious pressures, Thriller faced a monumental financial risk. In 1983, pouring nearly $1 million into a music video was unheard of. It was an amount that exceeded the entire budget of many full-length films at the time. Michael was determined to make Thriller a game changer, but his vision for a high-production, horror-inspired short film meant taking on expenses that worried everyone involved. For a project that was, in essence, just a promotional video for an album, Thriller was becoming an unprecedented investment. The financial strain was a point of contention between Michael and his record label. Although Thriller, the album, was already a huge success, this video's cost seemed excessive and unnecessary to some of the executives. They feared that if it didn't succeed, it could create a major financial setback for both Michael and the label. And unlike today, when music videos are often seen as essential marketing tools, in the early 80s, videos were still experimental, and few artists were willing to gamble millions on what was essentially a short film for a song. Michael, however, was adamant. He believed that Thriller could set a new standard and give his career a unique edge. But the financial gamble weighed heavily on everyone involved, especially as the video's costs continued to rise. To Michael, this was a project that needed to be bigger and bolder than anything else out there, and he pushed for the best. Costumes, sets, top-notch special effects, and the direction of John Landis, who had just directed the horror hit An American Werewolf in London. But this level of production came at a steep price. Michael even agreed to invest some of his own money to cover the costs, a risky move that few artists would ever consider. The stakes were higher than ever. If Thriller flopped, it wouldn't just be a financial loss. It could damage Michael's career, his relationship with his label, and his reputation as an artist. At this point, it was more than just a music video. It was a high-stakes gamble that put everything on the line. With every dollar invested, the pressure mounted, and Michael knew there was no turning back. However, as he would soon learn, this wasn't the only risk he would have to face. The bold creative choices made by director John Landis would stir up their own set of controversies. Another layer of tension came from the bold, controversial vision of Thriller's director, John Landis. Known for his work on An American Werewolf in London, Landis brought a horror-driven cinematic approach to Thriller that was entirely new to the music video format. With zombies rising from their graves, Michael transforming into a werewolf, and unsettling visuals that rivaled a Hollywood horror film, Landis's concept was ambitious, edgy, and unlike anything audiences had ever seen in a music video. While Michael was intrigued by Landis's vision, not everyone shared his enthusiasm. Some of the people involved in the project were deeply concerned that the dark, horror-based themes would alienate fans. There was worry that the video's shocking scenes, especially Michael's terrifying transformation into a creature of the night, could attract backlash from parents, religious groups, and more conservative viewers who expected something different from the king of pop. Executives worried that this extreme approach could overshadow the music itself and create a divide among Michael's fan base. Adding to the tension was the fact that horror as a genre was often considered niche, something that could alienate mainstream audiences. Music videos at the time were generally lighthearted and straightforward, serving as direct visual interpretations of the song's lyrics. But Thriller was breaking all the rules. It was not only a horror short film, but a multi-layered narrative that was daring in its creativity and potentially polarizing in its content. For Michael, this was the exact effect he wanted, to push boundaries and surprise audiences with something entirely unexpected. Yet this decision came with a cost, as it created tension within his team, who feared that the horror concept might not be well received. Michael's willingness to embrace the supernatural and horror elements, however, only added to his inner conflict. The more controversial Landis's vision became, the more Michael found himself torn between the groundbreaking artistic direction and the moral concerns stemming from his faith. It was an emotional tug-of-war. On one hand, he was eager to create a project that was truly unique, but on the other, he was wary of crossing a line that might jeopardize his reputation and personal beliefs. This inner conflict reached a peak as public opposition began to build, and the stakes of this ambitious project continued to grow. As the video took shape, Thriller began attracting attention, and not all of it was positive. Even before its release, rumors about the video's supernatural themes and eerie visuals spread, drawing the attention of religious leaders and concerned groups who condemned it as satanic and immoral. Pressure from these groups began to mount, and Michael started facing public criticism he hadn't anticipated. For a man who prided himself on being a positive role model, the growing backlash was unsettling. Suddenly, the video wasn't just a daring artistic statement, it was becoming a lightning rod for controversy. News outlets and conservative voices warned against the video, with some even suggesting that it promoted dark and sinister forces. For Michael, who was already struggling with the religious concerns within his inner circle, this external condemnation made the stakes feel even higher. He was worried that the criticism could not only harm his public image, but could also alienate fans who shared these beliefs. And with the immense financial investment at risk, the idea of facing a public outcry added more weight to an already heavy situation. The opposition grew so strong that there was real talk of shelving the video entirely. Advisors suggested he abandon the project to avoid a scandal, and Michael found himself caught in an intense dilemma. Should he continue with a project that might damage his reputation, or should he give up on his creative vision to maintain public favor? The stakes were now more than just about money or artistic freedom. They were about his very identity and place in the industry. At one point, Michael reportedly considered halting the release altogether, torn between his desire to push boundaries and the fear of backlash that seemed to grow louder every day. The intense criticism seemed poised to crush his passion project, and many believed Thriller would be scrapped. Yet even as doubts crept in, Michael wasn't quite ready to give up. Little did he know, though, that this wouldn't be the last time he'd consider putting an end to Thriller. As the criticism continued to intensify, Michael's internal conflict reached a breaking point. Reports suggest that, overwhelmed by the backlash, he took an almost unthinkable step. He allegedly ordered the Thriller footage to be destroyed. For Michael, this wasn't just a decision to cancel a project. It was an attempt to shield himself from the consequences he feared would follow its release. He believed that destroying the video might allow him to sidestep the condemnation he faced from his faith, the public, and even his own conscience. The idea that he could simply walk away from the controversy, even if it meant erasing months of work and a huge financial investment, seemed in that moment like his only option. At this point, Michael was ready to let go of what could have been the most ambitious project of his career. The pressure from his religious advisors, the financial gamble, and the growing public criticism had all taken a toll on him. He was no longer looking at Thriller as a groundbreaking music video. Instead, it had become a source of stress and anxiety, something he feared might tarnish his image and relationships beyond repair. It's hard to imagine now, but at that moment, Thriller, the video that would one day be seen as a masterpiece, was inches away from being erased from history. But just when it seemed like Thriller might truly disappear forever, something changed. Some of the people closest to Michael, recognizing his distress and the immense potential of the project, stepped in to stop him. Advisors, friends, and key members of his team urged him to reconsider, reminding him of the impact Thriller could have on his legacy. They saw the potential to make music history and encouraged him to push through the doubts and fears that had nearly led him to destroy the footage. This intervention became a turning point. With support from those around him, Michael began to reconsider. He realized that Thriller was more than a music video. It was an artistic statement, a risk worth taking, and a chance to redefine his career. Buoyed by the encouragement of those who believed in him, Michael made the decision to continue with Thriller, a choice that would soon transform both his life and the music industry forever. With renewed determination, Michael pushed forward, bolstered by the encouragement of those who saw the project's potential and were willing to stand by his side. His team, friends, and advisors knew that Thriller could be the game changer Michael envisioned, and their support helped him see beyond the fear and backlash that had nearly stopped him. Slowly, he began to embrace the idea that Thriller wasn't just a video, it was a revolution waiting to happen. The record label, recognizing the growing buzz around the video, ultimately threw their full support behind Michael, trusting his vision despite the unprecedented risks. They understood that Thriller was unlike anything else in the music industry. It had the power to draw in audiences in a way that had never been done before. With the label's support and the belief of his inner circle, Michael was able to see the bigger picture, that Thriller could be a cultural milestone, bridging the gap between music and film, and opening up possibilities for music videos as an art form. As the project neared completion, anticipation grew. Those who had seen the video knew it was something extraordinary, something that could set Michael apart in ways no one could have imagined. The stakes were high, but Michael's commitment commitment to his vision had been reignited. Now, instead of fearing the risks, he was prepared to face them, trusting that the power of his artistry would outweigh the criticisms that had once threatened to tear it all down. When Thriller finally premiered, it was an instant phenomenon. Audiences were mesmerized by the cinematic quality, the storytelling, the dance moves that would become iconic, and the sheer audacity of blending horror with pop music. It was unlike anything they'd ever seen, and the response was explosive. Michael's gamble had paid off in ways he couldn't have imagined. The once controversial horror themes and supernatural elements became not only accepted but celebrated, transforming Thriller into a cultural phenomenon. And so, what could have been a moment of retreat and fear turned into a monumental achievement, proving that sometimes the biggest risks bring the greatest rewards. But Thriller didn't just succeed, it redefined what music videos could be, opening the door for artists to dream bigger, push boundaries, and tell stories that transcended the limitations of traditional music. The release of Thriller was more than a success. It was a defining moment that changed the landscape of music, pop culture, and visual storytelling. The video's cinematic quality, choreography, and unforgettable storyline shattered expectations, setting a new standard for what music videos could be. Michael had taken a leap of faith, overcoming his personal fears, public backlash, and immense financial risks, and it paid off beyond anyone's imagination. Thriller was no longer just a music video, it was a phenomenon that would influence generations of artists and redefine pop culture itself. In the months and years following its release, Thriller reached unprecedented heights, captivating audiences worldwide and cementing Michael's place as an innovator. The video's impact was seen everywhere, from Halloween costumes to parodies, dance routines, and even fashion. It wasn't just a visual spectacle, it became a cultural milestone, something people referenced, celebrated, and imitated across the globe. Michael Jackson had managed to create a work of art that transcended music, blending film and song in a way that had never been done before. But Thriller did more than just elevate Michael's career. It changed the way the music industry viewed the music video itself. Until then, music videos were often simple, straightforward productions meant to promote a song. Thriller, however, showed that a music video could be more. It could be storytelling, art, and a powerful tool for cultural expression. Michael's risk opened doors for countless artists, showing them that the music video was a format ripe for creativity and innovation. It paved the way for visual albums, intricate dance sequences, and elaborate themes that could transform music into a full sensory experience. Reflecting on the legacy of Thriller, it's clear that Michael's decision to push forward despite all the obstacles was more than a triumph of creativity. It was an act of courage. He didn't just change his career, he changed the rules of the industry, and what was once seen as a risky, controversial project is now celebrated as one of the greatest achievements in entertainment history. So 35 years later, the real reason Thriller almost got canceled has become a testament to the power of vision, resilience, and the courage to defy expectations. Michael Jackson's Thriller didn't just survive the pressures and challenges, it transformed them, leaving a legacy that reminds us that sometimes the greatest successes come from taking the biggest risks.